A very good evening, honored delegates, learned participants, and fellow committee members. Negotiation is a skill of life, and the future belongs to the askers. With a little bit of give and take, there is hope for agreement, and the focus being to get the best out of your opponent. The stage is set as we unfurl the curtain to the grand opening of the second edition of Senior Advocate Ratan Singh National Negotiation Competition 2021. I'm filled with pride today to share the podium with our esteemed guests, Senior Advocate Ratan Singh and Mr. Anil Changaroth. Extremely honored to host you, dear sirs.
Thank you.
Our first edition was a humbling success. We witnessed numerous participation from prestigious law colleges around India. We also had the opportunity to host Honorable Justice A.K. Sikri, Judge, Supreme Court of India, and Senior Advocate Pinky Anand as the judge and guests for this final round and valedictory ceremony. I now pass on my mic to Ara.
Thank you, Lolita. That was a wonderful introduction. I would like to introduce Anil Changaroth, sir, to this gathering. Anil, sir, is an advocate and solicitor of Singapore, a solicitor of England and Wales, and is a barrister at law, Middle Temple of England and Wales. Sir did his Masters of Science in Construction Law and Arbitration from King's College London and National University of Singapore. Sir is an accredited mediator, arbitrator, trained adjudicator, and a country representative Singapore for the ADR-ODR International and Dispute Resolution Board Foundation. Sir heads the Changaroth Chambers LLC and Changaroth International Consultancy, both operating in the Asia-Pacific region. Sir has also recently started a new organization called ODR Asia. Anil sir is also the vice chair of the Asia Institute of Alternative Dispute Resolution, Professional Development and Education Committee. Sir has many publications in reputed international journals, and he even has a book to his name, which was published by Marshall Cavendish International Asia in 2019. We are delighted to have you here with us, sir, today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So over to you, sir, if you would like to say something.
All right. So would you like me to just do my presentation then? Is
Sure,
that all right?
sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation, and then Senior Advocate Ratan Singh, an old and good friend of mine. And you know, I think it's a really exciting thing that you guys are doing, and then you know, I understand that this is the second edition. So you know, going down the path of negotiation, something that's one step similar to or ahead of mediation is a great idea. And then let me just share with you a couple of slides to put you in perspective of what I think is important to take note. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen. All right, can you see that? Hang on. Okay.
Yes, I just
yeah. So my talk is on the art of negotiation, a significant practice of conflict avoidance and appropriate dispute resolution. Now you'll notice that I say appropriate dispute resolution because I don't think we are well beyond the part of alternate dispute resolution. It used to be for a long time alternative to litigation and arbitration, but the world has changed, and what the world now looks at is what is most appropriate under the circumstances. And there's a whole lot of dispute resolution mechanisms that are in place with neutral evaluation, expert determination, dispute boards, conflicts avoidance board, and all of that. So it becomes a case more of what is more appropriate than what is alternate. All right. Now, I think it's also important to put everything in perspective, right? And the state of businesses in the COVID-19 era, dramatically disrupting how work and society functions. Social distancing is resulting in a greater use of technology for communications and interaction. And the courts and dispute resolution institutes are moving away from the traditional form of resolving disputes. And you find that virtual hearings are now a commonplace with wider adoption of online dispute resolution mechanisms and platforms. All right, so that sets the framework of the couple of things that I want to share with you. Now, many of you may be familiar with this. This is a famous quote, Abraham Lincoln. He said this: discourage litigation, persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can. Point out to them how the nominal winner is often a real loser in fees, expenses, and a waste of time. As a peacemaker, the lawyer has a superior opportunity of being a good man. there will still be business enough. And that's really something that many of us in the dispute resolution arena have started paying attention to. It's always a case of you wanting to try and get your parties to a solution that's workable for most of them. All right. And interestingly, if you take a look at what the state of dispute resolution regime is in India, right? I think just 2 weeks ago, your Chief Justice of India, Mr. Ramana, said this in his keynote address to a global audience at the Indo-Singapore Mediation Summit on the 17th of July, right? He says, very often you keep quoting the fact that there are 45 million cases in the court. Conflicts were unavoidable in any society for a variety of reasons, including political, economic, social, cultural, and religious reasons, and stressed that with the conflict, there was also the need to develop a mechanism for conflict resolution, referring to the impact of grassroots alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, right? Like the Lok Aditas, or organized by the authorities and the towns and people in townships and everywhere else. And it's been said that India and numerous Asian countries have a long and rich tradition of collaborating and amicable settlement of disputes. So, it is in our culture, it is in our DNA, and this is something that we've been accustomed to all the time, right? You can see my whole slide, right? Can you see the whole slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, right. Okay, so then it comes down to this. Let's look at consensual conflict avoidance and appropriate dispute resolution. We're looking at consensual, we're not looking at adjudicative. And in consensual, you're talking about parties have control over the process to reach a mutually beneficial settlement or agreement with third party facilitating the discussion. So it's really about parties coming to a solution. And you have things like conciliation, you have things like mediation. Mediation is a massive area that's the world over is taking recognition of the fact of the Singapore Convention on enforcement of mediated settlements. And so, it's a buzzword. And today we're not here for that buzzword. We are here for this, negotiations, right? It's a mutual discussion and arrangement of the terms of a transaction or an agreement, right? And it's a term that's been there since the 16th century, the word negotiation. It comes from a whole lot of Greek and several other traditional names. And it's essentially a process to reach an agreement or compromise by discussion. Now, I hope that some of these points that I've been discussing with you or sharing with you would let you know how exactly when you're getting into negotiations or the practice of negotiation, you want to keep these things in mind. All right. Now, as far as negotiation is concerned, I think many of you may have heard about this. It's either referred to in negotiations or in mediation. That it's really deep rooted in India and the culture of India, and is a classic in the Mahabharata. There have been several incidences or incidents of negotiations and mediations trying to resolve a dispute. Some of them have worked, some of them have not worked, and that ended up in battles and so on. But the fact remains that negotiation is a key and essential part of what Indian culture is all about, right? Now, if you then move one step further, now that you have a framework of what mediation is, and if you think about the art of negotiation, as in negotiation as opposed to mediation, the art of negotiations, I thought some of these interesting quotes would set a framework, right? John F. Kennedy said these two things. He said, you cannot negotiate with people who say what's mine is mine and what's yours is negotiable. So it's a mindset of the people that get into negotiation. It's also been said that let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear or to negotiate. So the point is this: everything can come to a solution, can come to a settlement if you put your heart and soul into it, and you're brave enough to stand up and say, let's sit down and talk. Nelson Mandela said this: negotiations and discussions are the greatest weapons we have for promoting peace and development. So the fundamentals of peace and development surely can transcend into business arena if you want it to. All right. Now, if you then take that aspects of what I've just shared with you about the essence of negotiation, you'd find that even in India, you've had this for a long time ago. And then what I found interesting was the Gandhi Irving Pact of 5th of March 1931, political agreement signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Sir Lord Irving, the Viceroy of India, signed before the second round of table conference in London. And it is said that this negotiations for Indians' independence started with this pact, which gradually led to a greater negotiations between the British and the Indians, and eventually the independence of India. I mean, some of you may know this by history, but I thought I related to the fact that it's all about negotiations at the end of the day, right? Now, so if you then think about the mindset, if this is in our culture, I say our culture because my parents are also from India. If it's in our culture, then what is the mindset? And I found this very interesting. The former Chief Justice of India had said this in the Supreme Court, observed that negotiations with the farmers that failed, this is something that took place in December last year, I think, the farmers' protest, right? And he said, will fail again if the government doesn't work with an open mind. And he stated that the farmers perceive that the law are against them, and your negotiation is bound to fail again unless you do so with an open mind. And it's really about being open-minded and thinking about the fact that you want to come to a settlement without having to incur all of the rut and the trouble that you face, going forward with litigation or arbitration. So that's where the essence of negotiation comes. Right now, so if you then talk about strategies, I thought these are some interesting things that you need to take note of. Negotiation means getting the best of your opponent. And he said, the most difficult thing in any negotiation almost is the making sure that you strip it of emotions and deal with the facts. So it's taking out the emotions, and there was a considerable challenge to that here, and understandably so. So, it's really about how you break it down, how you take away the emotions, and how you sit down. You want to achieve something, and know what you want in the negotiation session and what you can live without, right? So these are very important things. Can you live without that aspect of the issues that you have? Or are you going to be so personal and so emotional that you want your day, then you might as well go off to court or in arbitration and get your day in court, so to speak, all right? So some of the necessary skills when you think about negotiations includes this question of adaptability, communication, emotional intelligence, managing expectation, persuasion, problem solving, active listening, decision making, integrity, patience, planning, and rapport building. So you find that these elements are really, really quite critical. Some of you may think that this comes naturally, but to a lot of us litigators, we kind of lose sight of this because we're ready to do battle. Next week, I'm ready to do battle in court, and it's not a virtual, it's going to be a full-blown hearing. And we've got our guns loaded and ready to fire off. We're not looking at negotiations. We're not interested in mediation because we know that this is a matter that really, at the end of the day, we want a third party to make the decision. So we're not interested. But if you're going to take a step back and you want to think about possibly solving the issues, you want to think about all of these pointers. All right. So the last point I wanted to say is this. I was thinking that in India, I wonder whether or not some of the issues that you have are this, that whether or not it can be slow, whether it's good practice that you should think about being patient and polite. Sometimes it can take multiple visits spread over a few months. And sometimes they look at a high, a family and who is senior and all those kind of things. And decision making is a process that does not necessarily end when the contract is signed, because further negotiations, further discussions take place very often. And I find that sometimes when dealing with parties in India, that these are some of the nuances that you have to pay attention to, right? And so I've given you a quick run through of what I feel is important when you think about negotiations. And I thought these are just in my concluding remarks, I thought I'd share this as well. This is something that was shared by the World Economic Forum in middle of last year. The potential for change is unlimited and bound only by our imagination, for better or for worse. right? And our Minister of Law in April last year said that when the COVID-19 outbreak just came out, he said that in such a situation, you don't talk about contract, you talk about equity, you talk about justice, you talk about what is the right thing to do. And if you think about it, negotiations, mediation takes you down that path. And coming out of the COVID-19, you'd realize that we can no longer use the traditional methods of dispute resolution, and we want to sit back, take a step back, think about the strategies and the skills that are involved in negotiations, and that ultimately be what is important in going forward with businesses. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was really insightful. The chairman of advisory board of Nyaya Shastram, Ratan sir, has a heavyweight practice in construction, engineering, infrastructure, to name a few, with about 25 years of experience. Sir is senior advocate and arbitrator at Supreme Court of India. In recognition of his international fellowships, sir is the only fellow from India out of 31 global fellows of the world-renowned invitation-only International Academy of Construction Lawyers, Academy, USA. Besides this, sir has recognition from FCI-ARB, FD, FMIA, FAIA area, to name a few. Sir is director for India at Charter Institute of Arbitrators, UK, and founder and chairman for India at Society of Construction Law, UK. I now humbly invite Sir Ratan sir to address us and declare the competition open. The mic's all yours, sir. Sir, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Thank you for introduction. And I must thank Anil, my old friend, for taking out time for this event and sharing his thoughts and taking away what all that I wanted to share with you guys. So he has left me with nothing, but that is besides the point. Point is that I must thank the organizers, the team Nyaya Shastram, for organizing this wonderful event, which is in its second edition. I'm very convinced after 25 years of my practice as arbitrator and as well as the litigator, I'm very convinced that negotiation skill sets are very important for everybody who has anything to do with law. Whether you are an arbitrator, you are a mediator, you are a litigator in court, you are in-house counsel, you are a corporate lawyer, wherever you are, you must possess the negotiation skills. It really takes you forward in your life. How did it come to you? It requires a structured learning, a structured training. And this comes through learning of the theories and implementing them in practice through competitions like the present one, where you get opportunity to really use your theoretical knowledge in the context of facts given to you by the organizers. Therefore, I encourage all of the participants, to be aware that good negotiators are good advocates. Good negotiators are good arbitrators. Good negotiators are good in-house counsel. Good negotiators are good general counsels. Good negotiators are good corporate lawyers. End of the day, wherever you are, in whatever role you are, you negotiate. You negotiate with courts, you negotiate with parties, you negotiate with whoever. In fact, you negotiate in your family, you negotiate in corporate deals. And now, one may think that negotiation comes automatically to everybody. You know how to reason, you know how to talk, you know how to negotiate. Yes, you do know, because you have been doing it since your childhood. You have been negotiating with dad for the newer versions of your mobile phones and so on and so forth. But if you really want to take it to the level where it can really help you professionally, then I'll encourage all of you to take negotiation as a structured learning. Read good books. And two books I would suggest to all of you. One is Getting to Yes, and another is Getting Past No. These two books, Getting to Yes and Getting Past No, written by most renowned authors known for negotiation. It's not very bulky book, paperback, thin books, but very interesting books, which really talks about the underlying philosophy for the negotiation skills. It teaches you various techniques, negotiation skills which you may be possessing without learning about this can be honed, can be really improved by, as I said, a structured methodical learning. And for that, these two books would be of really relevance. And try participating in events like these and be aware of the importance of a negotiation in your career. In fact, I would be glad, and I have just talked to, just before this inaugural session started, I talked to the organizers. I said, I would love to gift these two books to all the quarter finalists of this event. And I request the organizers to get this from my office and arrange to send to all the quarter finalists. And I would end by saying that so far as the subject is concerned, it requires two things. One, theoretical knowledge, and two, how to practice them. This book, which I referred to, also have the templates, which really helps you after knowing the techniques and applying the skills that you learn through these books. I don't want to take much of your time. I'm aware of the time constraints. Your preliminaries are going to start soon. With these words, I declare this event open. Thank you very much.
Abhishek, is this visible?
Yes, Aniket, it is visible.
Okay, I'll just.
Yes, so we can't hear anybody. So is there anybody have to say anything, or should we take it that it is over? Organizers?
Yes, sir.
We can't hear anybody, any of you.
Arav? Okay, sir. Now, as we come to the end of this inaugural session, I would like to now proceed with the vote of thanks. I, Abhishek Bhushan Singh, founder and managing director, Nyay Sastram, take this great pride and privileged to have been given this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the entire team of Nyaya Shastram. I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude towards the guests who have graced us with their presence and provided very valuable insight while addressing the gathering today. I am sure your words have definitely encouraged students to take up more ADR activities in their future. First and foremost, I express my sincere gratitude to the guest of honor, Mr. Anil Changaroth, sir, for having partaken in the inaugural ceremony of second edition of Senior Advocate Ratan Casing National Negotiation Competition. Despite his demanding schedule, the participants have benefited immensely from the inputs provided by you, sir. We thank you for gracing this event. I am immensely grateful to our chairman, Senior Advocate Ratan Kumar Singh, sir, for being part of the event. I am certain that participants have had a lot of lucrative and fruitful knowledge to gain from you. Your presence amidst the gathering today is deeply valued by us, sir. I would like to thank Deepak, Aniket, Arav, and Lolita for smooth functioning of this ceremony. May the best team win. Thank you all.